The twin suns of SCIFI-Prime glowed red and gold across the arena sands. The planet was famous for one thing, the great arena of strength where champions from across the galaxy came to prove their power. Every year, thousands gathered to watch the best warriors fight under the banners of honor and glory. At the center of that world stood the undefeated champion, Princess Kyreth of the Varkashi Empire. She was tall, scaled, and powerful, her armor made from the bones of beasts she had slain. Her claws were sharp, her tail long, her eyes glowing yellow like molten metal. For 10 galactic years, no one had lasted more than a few seconds against her. The crowds adored her. To them, Kyreth was not just a princess, she was a living legend. Her victories were sung across hundreds of worlds, but lately, whispers had begun spreading through the galaxy. A new species had joined the galactic conquered, a species called humans. Most aliens didn't take them seriously. Humans were small, weak-looking, and lacked the claws, scales, or telepathic powers of the older races. They came from a blue planet called Earth, barely known beyond its own star system. To the Varkashi, humans were amusing, like children playing soldiers. When Kyreth heard that humans were sending representatives to SCIFI-Prime, she laughed for hours. "Bring them here," she had said. "Let them see what real strength looks like." The day of the diplomatic ceremony arrived. Leaders from many species gathered in the grand hall of the arena palace. The hall was built of black stone and glowing crystals, with banners showing Kyreth's victories. The humans arrived last. They stepped out of a silver ship, their uniforms neat and simple. Leading them was Captain Ryan Hale, a tall man with calm gray eyes and a steady expression. Unlike other delegates, he carried no guards or weapons. Kyreth watched him from her throne, surrounded by armored warriors. She smirked when she saw how plain he looked. No claws, no glowing eyes, no armor. Just a man in a blue jacket with a small Earth emblem on his shoulder. "So this is the famous human?" Kyreth said loudly, her voice echoing through the hall. "The new member of the Conquered?" Ryan smiled politely. "That's right. Captain Ryan Hale, representing Earth and the Terran Union." Kyreth leaned forward, studying him. "You seem very calm for someone standing before a warrior who has ended empires." "I've seen a few things myself," Ryan replied, his tone light but confident. The hall fell silent. No one ever spoke to Kyreth like that. Her eyes narrowed. "Tell me, human, do you fight?" "I defend," Ryan said simply. There's a difference. That made her laugh, a deep, sharp sound. "Defend against what? The wind?" The aliens in the hall joined her laughter. The humans stayed silent. Ryan didn't flinch or look angry. He simply folded his arms and said, "Sometimes defense is harder than attack. It takes patience and control." Kyreth rose from her throne. Her scales shimmered under the light. "Then let us test your control. I challenge you to a duel, a 1-minute match in the great arena." The hall gasped. No one challenged outsiders to a royal duel. Ryan looked at her calmly. "And what happens if I last that minute?" Kyreth's tail flicked. "Then your people earn the respect of the Varkashi Empire. And if I lose, then you crawl back to your planet and never speak of strength again," she said proudly. Ryan nodded. "All right, 1 minute." Kyreth tilted her head. "You accept so easily? Do you not fear death?" Ryan's lips curved slightly. "You said 1 minute. I can handle that." That night, the news spread across the galaxy. "Human challenges the warrior princess." The arena filled faster than ever before. Beings from dozens of systems arrived to witness what they believed would be the fastest defeat in history. In the gladiator chambers below the arena, Kyreth prepared. She stretched her limbs, tested her weapon, a plasma spear that hummed with energy. Her assistants fastened her armor and polished the royal crest on her chest. "Your Highness," said one of her aides, a lizard-like officer, "be careful. These humans may be unpredictable." Kyreth snorted. "Unpredictable? They are fragile. A single strike will end it. I could fight 10 of them and still not break a sweat." The aide bowed. "As you say, Princess." Meanwhile, in the opposite chamber, Ryan stood quietly in front of a mirror. He wasn't wearing armor, just a standard human uniform, reinforced fabric, nothing special. No weapons, no helmet, no glowing shield. One of the conquered officers approached him nervously. "Captain Hale, are you sure about this? She's stronger than any human alive. You could be—" "Fine," Ryan interrupted softly. It's not about strength. It's about focus, the officer frowned. What's your plan? Ryan looked up, his gray eyes calm as ever. To teach her something no one else has. The next morning, the great arena roared with life. The twin suns shone high above, their light dancing off the golden sand. Billions across the galaxy tuned in to the live broadcast. Kareth entered first, greeted by thunderous cheers. She raised her spear and roared, "For Varkesh!" The crowd repeated her words in unison. Then Ryan walked out. There was no roar for him, only whispers, laughter, and disbelief. That's the human? Someone muttered. He looks ordinary. Maybe this is some kind of joke. Ryan stopped at the center of the arena. He looked around, saw the massive alien crowd, the banners and the flashing holo cameras. Then he looked at Kareth. She stood taller than him, glowing with strength. Last chance, human, she said. Kneel and I might let you live. Ryan shook his head. I didn't come here to kneel. The crowd howled with laughter. Kareth's tail lashed behind her. Then prepare to learn your place. The gong sounded. The duel began. Kareth moved first, faster than the eye could follow. Her spear slashed through the air with a burst of light. Ryan didn't move until the last second, then simply sidestepped. The tip of the spear missed him by inches. The crowd gasped. Kareth growled. She swung again, faster, stronger. Ryan ducked, turned, and stepped aside each time with calm precision. He didn't attack, just avoided every blow. 30 seconds passed. Kareth was furious now. Stand still, coward, she shouted. Ryan's voice was quiet but clear. You rely on anger. It blinds you. Her spear struck the ground where he had just been, sending a cloud of dust into the air. He moved like water, calm and unhurried. The crowd fell silent. Even Kareth's own warriors were watching in disbelief. 15 seconds left. Kareth screamed and used her tail to sweep his legs, but Ryan jumped over it, rolled, and stood back up smoothly. 10 seconds left. Ryan looked at her, breathing steady. You fight with power, he said softly, but not with purpose. Her eyes blazed with fury. She lunged forward, her full strength focused into one final strike. Ryan didn't dodge this time. He stepped toward her, grabbed her spear shaft mid-swing, and twisted. The motion was smooth, controlled, and shockingly fast. The weapon flew from her hands and landed several meters away in the sand. Kareth stumbled forward off balance. Ryan's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, not pushing, just steady. The gong sounded. 1 minute, silence filled the arena. Kareth froze, staring at him. She could have crushed stone with her bare hands, but in that moment she felt powerless. Ryan let go and stepped back. Time's up, he said quietly. The crowd erupted, not in cheers but in stunned murmurs. No one could believe it. The human had lasted a full minute. More than that, he hadn't even struck back. Kareth looked down at her empty hands, her heart pounding. How? She whispered. How did you do that? Ryan smiled faintly. Humans aren't the strongest. But we learn, we adapt, we don't give up. He turned and walked toward the exit, leaving her standing in the center of the arena, surrounded by silence. The cameras followed him, broadcasting his calm figure to billions of viewers. Across the galaxy, species who once laughed at humans began to wonder. Who were these fragile creatures who could stand before a warrior princess and not fall? In the royal balcony, the Varkeshi emperor leaned forward. That human? He might be dangerous. Kareth's tail twitched. She was still staring at the sand, at the mark where her weapon had fallen. For the first time in her life, she felt something new. Not anger, not humiliation, but curiosity. Dangerous? She whispered. No, he's something else. Above the arena, the suns began to set, painting the sky in red and gold again. The great arena of strength had witnessed countless victories, but none like this. That day, for the first time in history, a human had made the galaxy pause. The next morning, the arena was still buzzing with talk of the duel. Across the galaxy, people argued on news screens, in starports, and in military halls. A human lasted 1 minute against Kareth. Some said it was luck. Others said it was a trick. But a few whispered something new, that perhaps the humans were not as weak as they looked. On Varkesh Prime, Kareth sat alone in her royal chamber, staring at her weapon. The once bright spear looked dull to her eyes now. Her pride was bruised, her mind restless. She had trained since childhood, fought in wars, and defeated enemies twice her size, Yet one calm human had made her doubt everything. Her aide entered quietly. "Your Highness, the Council wishes to speak with you about the duel." Kareth's tail flicked. "Let them wait. I have nothing to explain." "But they are saying the human used dishonorable tricks." "Tricks?" Kareth growled. "He didn't even strike back. He moved like he could see through me. That is not a trick, that is mastery." Her aide bowed low. "Then what will you do?" Kareth looked at her reflection in the spear's metal. "Find out how he did it." Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Hale was seated in the human quarters of the conquered embassy. His crew was excited but nervous. "Sir," said Lieutenant Vega, his communications officer, "you made history yesterday. Billions saw you humiliate a royal warrior. They're calling you the Minuteman of Earth." Ryan smiled faintly. "I didn't humiliate anyone. I just kept my word," Vega laughed. "You lasted the full minute, sir. Against her!" "That's not just keeping a word. That's rewriting galactic history." Ryan stood and walked to the window, looking at the city below. The tall crystal towers of GalacticPrime shimmered in the sun's light. Alien ships flew past in perfect patterns. He said quietly, "Sometimes the hardest battles aren't about winning. They're about changing how others see you." Vega nodded, though she didn't fully understand. Just then the intercom buzzed. "Captain Hale, Princess Kareth requests your presence in the palace." The room fell silent. Ryan turned slowly. "Already?" "Yes, sir." She said, "It's not a challenge, it's an invitation." Vega frowned. "Sir, that sounds dangerous." Ryan gave a small smile. So did yesterday. The palace was grander than any human building Ryan had seen. Tall pillars carved from red stone reached into the clouds. Guards in silver armor lined the corridors. When Ryan entered the throne room, Kareth was standing in front of a massive window overlooking the city. She turned as he approached, her golden eyes sharp but not angry. "Captain Hale," she said, her voice lower than before, "you walk without fear." "Even now," Ryan bowed slightly. "You asked for me, Princess." Kareth studied him for a long moment. "You made me doubt everything I've been taught about strength." "That's not a bad thing," Ryan said softly. "Doubt is where learning begins." Kareth frowned. "You speak like a philosopher, not a soldier." "Maybe humans are a bit of both," Ryan said. "We've had to be." She crossed her arms. "You did not fight me with power. You moved as if you could see every strike before it came." "How?" Ryan looked thoughtful. "Because I didn't see an enemy. I saw patterns, breathing, movement, emotion. Most warriors try to dominate their opponent. I just listened to yours." Kareth tilted her head. "Listened? To my movements?" "Yes," he said. "You fight with anger, Princess. Every time your emotion rises, your body shifts. It's predictable. I didn't beat you with strength. I survived by understanding you." The words struck her like a blade of truth. For a moment, Kareth had no reply. No one had ever spoken to her that way, uncalmly, honestly, without fear or flattery. Finally, she said, "So that's your power. Not muscle, but mind." Ryan nodded. "Humans learned long ago that we can't outfight everything. So we outthink. We adapt." Kareth walked closer, her eyes narrowing. "If you are so wise, human, teach me. I want to understand this control you spoke of." Ryan blinked. "Teach you?" "Yes," she said. "You defeated me once."
"I will not allow it to happen again."
"Show me your way." Ryan smiled faintly. "All right, Princess. But it won't be easy. Control isn't about strength. It's about patience." Kareth grinned, showing her sharp teeth. "Patience is for diplomats." "I am a warrior." Ryan met her gaze. "Then it's time to learn to be both." For the next several days, Kareth trained with Ryan in the royal gardens, a peaceful space filled with glowing plants and quiet fountains. It was far from the roaring crowds of the arena. Ryan taught her to slow her breathing, to watch rather than strike. "Your instincts tell you to attack," he explained. "But instincts can be fooled. Control means choosing when not to fight." Kareth found it frustrating. Every time she moved too fast, Ryan shook his head. "Again," he would say. "You test my patience, human," she grumbled after hours of practice. "That's the point," he said calmly. "Patience is strength in disguise." At first, she thought his methods were foolish, standing still, breathing deeply, watching the movement of leaves in the wind. But slowly something changed. She began to notice small things, how her muscles tensed before a strike, how her heartbeat quickened when she grew angry, how silence made her see more clearly. For the first time, She began to understand the strength behind Ryan's calmness. News of their training spread across SCIFI-Prime. The public was confused. Some mocked Kareth for wasting time with a fragile human. Others were curious. One evening during a session, Kareth stopped mid-motion. "Tell me, Ryan," she said, "why do humans fight if they are so fragile?" Ryan rested his hands behind his back. "Because we have to. Our world was not kind to us. We fought storms, diseases, hunger, and even each other. We learned to survive by standing together." Kareth looked down thoughtfully. "You fight for survival, not pride." "Exactly," Ryan said. "When you've almost lost everything, you learn that strength isn't about who can hit hardest. It's about who refuses to fall." For a long time, Kareth said nothing. The words echoed in her mind. That night, she stood on her palace balcony watching the twin moons rise. She remembered all her victories and the crowds cheering, the enemies she crushed. But none of them had ever made her feel as alive as this simple truth. Strength without purpose was nothing. The next day, the Varkeshi Emperor summoned her. His chamber was dark and cold, filled with the hum of ancient machinery. "You train with the human?" His voice rumbled. Kareth bowed. "Yes, father. He has knowledge worth learning." The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. "Knowledge? Or weakness? You shame your bloodline by following a lesser creature?" Kareth's fists clenched. "He defeated me without striking once." "Is that weakness?" The Emperor rose from his throne, towering above her. He embarrassed the royal line. "You should have crushed him." Kareth stood tall. "Perhaps crushing is not the only path to victory." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then the Emperor's deep voice softened slightly. "You sound like him." "Maybe that's not a bad thing," Kareth replied quietly. Later that night, as Ryan was leaving the gardens, Kareth stopped him. "Tomorrow," she said, "I want another duel. Same rules." "1 minute," Ryan smiled slightly. "You think you're ready?" "I don't think," she said. "I feel ready." The next day, the arena filled again. Billions tuned in once more. The same place, the same fighters, but this time the air felt different. Kareth entered the arena not roaring but silent. Her movements were calm, her breathing even. Ryan stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back. The gong rang. Kareth did not charge. She waited, studying him. Every small shift in his stance, every breath, every movement, she read it all. Ryan smiled. "You've been learning." "Patience," she said softly, "is strength in disguise." Then she moved. Not wild, not furious, but smooth and precise. Her strike was controlled, elegant, almost beautiful. Ryan deflected it gently. For 1 full minute, they exchanged movements. No anger, no chaos. Just understanding. When the gong sounded, neither had fallen. The crowd cheered. Not for a victor, but for the balance between them. Kareth looked at Ryan and bowed. "Now I understand." Ryan returned the bow. "And now the galaxy will too." As they stood together in the glowing light of Varkesh's suns, the audience erupted in applause. For the first time, the galaxy saw a Varkeshi princess and a human soldier not as enemies, but as equals. Kareth turned to the crowd and shouted, "Humans fight not to conquer, but to endure. That is true strength." The words echoed across every world that watched. Ryan smiled quietly. The lesson was spreading faster than he ever imagined. That day marked a turning point in galactic history. The warrior princess had begun to change, and through her, the galaxy would soon change as well. But deep beyond the stars, an old enemy was awakening, one that neither human calm nor alien power had faced before. The suns of SciFi-Prime shone high over the arena once more. The previous duel had been a spectacle unlike any in galactic history. News of Kareth's newfound respect for humans spread faster than light-speed shuttles. Across dozens of systems, races whispered about the small blue planet and the calm soldier who had survived a minute against the greatest warrior in the galaxy. Yet Kareth herself felt restless. The lessons Ryan had taught her in the gardens, patience, control, understanding movement, were powerful, but they were incomplete. She had learned how to defend, how to read, how to remain calm, but she still wanted to fight, to test the limits of both her strength and the humans. Early the next morning, the royal messenger arrived at the human quarters. "Captain Hale, Princess Kareth requests your presence in the arena. This time, she wants a proper duel." Ryan nodded. I suspected this would happen. She wants to see what humans can truly do, not just survive. Lieutenant Vega frowned. Sir, she's stronger than before. Are you sure? Ryan gave a faint smile. It's not about strength. It's about adaptation. The arena was filled to capacity. Beings of all shapes and sizes had gathered again. The twin suns reflected off the golden sands, casting long shadows across the circular fighting ground. Some whispered that this would be Kareth's ultimate victory, that humans had no chance. Others wondered if the human would finally show his true abilities. Kareth entered first, her golden eyes blazing with determination. Her armor gleamed, her spear humming with energy. Every step she took resonated with power, reminding all spectators why she had ruled the arena undefeated for a decade. Ryan entered quietly, with only his standard uniform. The contrast was stark, and a few aliens snickered. The human dares walk into the arena again? The gong sounded. The duel began. Kareth moved first, as expected. This time, however, she did not strike wildly. She applied the lessons Ryan had taught her, controlling her emotions, managing her speed, observing his stance. Her strikes were faster, more precise, designed to test rather than to destroy. Ryan didn't dodge randomly. He had studied her patterns not only from the previous duel, but from the past week of training. Each movement, each subtle weight shift, each flash of anger or hesitation, he read them like a map. The crowd was mesmerized. Kareth had never moved like this in public before. She was focused, disciplined, almost human in her control, yet every strike had the potential to crush the arena floor. Ryan stepped lightly, redirecting her spear's momentum with a touch that seemed too gentle to matter. Sparks flew where her weapon met his deflection. The Varkashi spectators leaned forward, astonished. The human was not only surviving, and he was matching her move for move. 10 minutes passed, yet neither had fallen. Not one serious injury had been dealt. The duel became a display of skill, balance, and intelligence rather than raw strength. Kareth began to feel a strange sensation. Frustration mixed with admiration. Every time she tried to test him with a new technique, Ryan adapted instantly. He didn't fight with brute force, but he countered her attacks with precise movements and subtle anticipation. Finally, she decided to raise the stakes. Her eyes glowed brighter. With a swift spin, she launched her spear in a spinning arc that could cut through steel. She followed immediately with a series of strikes designed to trap him. Ryan didn't flinch. Instead, he moved calmly, sidestepping, pivoting, and using her momentum to remain upright. Then in a moment no one expected, he struck back. It was not with a punch, not with a kick, but with a precise motion of disarming her spear. In a single fluid move, Kareth's weapon flew several meters away. She stumbled, surprised for the first time in her life. The arena fell silent. The crowd gasped. Kareth, the undefeated warrior princess, was unarmed, and the human had done it without using any weapons. Kareth's tail lashed behind her. She growled low. Impossible. How did you... Ryan stepped closer, his gray eyes steady. I didn't do anything you didn't show me yourself, he said calmly. Your strength is immense. Your skill is unmatched, but control is something you can learn. And mistakes are always predictable. For a moment, Kareth felt something she had never felt before, humility. She had been undefeated for years, feared by thousands. Yet here was a human who not only survived her attack but used her own skill against her. She lunged forward, ready to regain her weapon with sheer strength. Ryan met her halfway. They collided not in force but in calculated balance. Sparks flew as their movements synchronized. The human, who had once only defended, now fought back strategically, forcing her to adapt instantaneously. The gong sounded again, marking the end of the duel. Kareth's breathing was heavy but controlled. Ryan's posture was calm, almost relaxed. The arena erupted in cheers, but this time the applause was different. Not for the victory of one over the other, but for the display of skill, respect, and intelligence. Kareth stood, weaponless, and faced the human. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with a deep breath, she bowed slightly, a gesture she had never made to anyone. You are remarkable, she said quietly. I thought humans were weak. I was wrong. Ryan gave a small nod. Strength comes in many forms, Princess. Humans survive because we refuse to give up. We fight not just with our bodies, but with our minds. Kareth's golden eyes softened. Then perhaps we can learn from each other. After the duel, Kareth invited Ryan to the Royal Training Hall, where she began to practice not only with weapons, but with strategy, discipline, and teamwork. She asked him to teach her humans unique methods of combat: improvisation, adaptation, and endurance. Ryan showed her small exercises, moving through obstacles, balancing attacks and defense, reading opponents' emotions. Kareth struggled at first, frustrated by techniques that seemed weak or slow to her. But gradually she noticed improvements. Her strikes became cleaner, faster, and more efficient. She learned how to anticipate, control, and adjust. The process was humbling, but Kareth realized something important. Humans were not the strongest physically, but they maximized every ounce of potential they had. That was what made them extraordinary. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of Kareth's transformation spread like wildfire. Other species who had once mocked humanity began to pay attention. If a Varkishi princess, one of the most feared warriors ever, could learn from a human, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? Aliens started sending envoys to observe humans more closely, learning their techniques and strategies. Suddenly, humans were no longer the underdogs. They were becoming a symbol of intelligence, adaptability, and resilience. One evening, Kareth and Ryan trained late under the twin moons of HFY. The arena below was empty, the city silent, and only the sound of their movements echoed across the sands. Kareth paused and looked at Ryan. "Tell me the truth, human. Why did you survive that first duel?" Ryan leaned against a tree, his expression calm. "Because I didn't try to beat you with what you could see. I fought with what you couldn't see: observation, understanding, patience. You can destroy anything with your strength, but you cannot destroy calm and intelligence. Not with brute force." Kareth considered this. Her pride had always been in her strength, but she began to realize that Ryan's lesson went deeper. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about the way humans lived and endured. "I see," she said slowly. "Humans fight differently. You survive, and you teach even in the process." Ryan smiled faintly. "We have to. We are not the strongest. We have to be cleverer, faster in thought, and ready for anything." Kareth nodded. "Then I have more to learn. Not just to survive, but to fight alongside humans, to understand them." For the first time, Kareth felt something she had never felt before: respect and curiosity combined. She wasn't just training to defeat Ryan, she was training to understand him and his people. But far beyond the peaceful training grounds, in the dark reaches of uncharted space, something ancient stirred. A signal, alien and deadly, spread across multiple star systems. A presence that had been silent for eons was awakening. Ryan felt it first, scanning the communications network aboard his ship. "Kareth, something is coming," he said quietly. Kareth turned, her golden eyes narrowing. "Another enemy?" "Not just another enemy," Ryan said, his voice serious. "Something far older, and far more dangerous than anything we've faced before." Kareth clenched her fists, her training with Ryan now more important than ever. "Then we prepare together." The galaxy had gone quiet. For the first time in centuries, the Varkishi war fleets and human ships stood together in orbit, scanning the deep void beyond known space. Strange signals pulsed through the stars, ancient, cold, and coded in a language no one understood. Ryan Hale stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. It showed a distant sector on the edge of the Milky Way, glowing faintly with unusual energy. Kareth stood beside him, her golden armor reflecting the pale blue light of the screen. "That's where the signal came from?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "Yes, it's not a natural frequency. It's artificial, but it's older than any civilization in the database." Kareth frowned. "Older than the Varkesh Empire?" "Much older," Ryan replied. "Possibly from before the first empires ever rose." The air felt heavy. The crew, both human and Varkeshi, exchanged uneasy looks. For the first time in their history, the galaxy's strongest warrior species and humanity were working together. Over the next few days, joint fleets were formed. Human warships and Varkishi cruisers flew side by side, their engines lighting up the blackness of space. It was a sight that made history. Two former rivals now united by curiosity and fear. The fleet entered the dark sector. As they approached, their sensors started failing. Communication systems flickered. Static filled the air. "Captain, readings are dropping," said Lieutenant Vega. "Something is interfering with our instruments." Kareth's sharp eyes glowed faintly. "This feels wrong. It's like the void itself is alive." Ryan said nothing. He watched the stars vanish one by one as if something massive was blocking the light. Then suddenly the blackness shifted. It wasn't space, and it was a shape enormous and cold, drifting slowly toward them. "By the suns," Kareth whispered. "That's not a planet." The entire fleet stared as the object came into view. It was a structure, dark and metallic, kilometers wide, like a sleeping fortress. Its surface pulsed with faint blue veins of light. "It's a machine," Ryan said quietly, "and it's waking up." Moments later, the structure released a deep, vibrating sound, a low pulse that echoed through every ship. The crew covered their ears, but the sound wasn't just noise. It was a message. On the human screen, symbols appeared, old, sharp, alien. The translation software struggled but managed to form a rough phrase. "You are intruding where we once ruled. The cycle begins again." Then the stars lit up with hundreds of smaller ships rising from the dark structure like a swarm of shadows. "Enemy contacts. Hundreds, no, thousands." Vega shouted. "Battle stations," Ryan commanded. "Form defensive lines." Kareth's blood surged. Finally, something worthy to fight. The swarm attacked without hesitation. Energy blasts ripped through the void, striking shields and hulls. The humans fired railguns, missiles, and plasma cannons. The Varkashi unleashed beams of pure energy that cut through the darkness. But the enemy ships were fast. Too fast. They didn't move like living pilots. Their patterns were perfect, mechanical, cold. These things. They're AI-controlled, Ryan realized. Ancient machines. Kareth swung her fist down on the console. "Then we destroy them." Ryan turned. "No, Kareth. We need to understand them first. Look, they're not targeting escape pods or life signals. They're only going after energy sources." Her eyes narrowed. "So they want to drain power?" "Exactly. They're feeding on it," Ryan said. The battle grew worse. One by one, ships began losing power as the swarm latched onto them like parasites, draining their energy cores. Kareth growled. "We can't win like this. We need to strike the source." Ryan nodded. "Agreed. The fortress." He turned to the communications officer. "Signal all ships and form a path." "We're going in." The fleet shifted formation, creating a narrow corridor through the chaos. Human bombers and Varkashi fighters flew in synchronized waves, covering each other. It was a sight of pure cooperation. Human tactics and alien aggression perfectly blended. Kareth led the vanguard personally, piloting a sleek Varkashi assault craft. Ryan flew beside her in a human strike fighter. Their comms crackled. "You still trust your machines, human?" Kareth asked. Ryan grinned. "Only when I'm flying them myself." They dove through the swarm, weaving between enemy ships, firing in tight bursts. Explosions bloomed like stars around them. Kareth's laughter echoed over the channel. "Now this is battle." Ryan, however, stayed focused. "Keep your eyes on that fortress. Its power core is emitting massive radiation. That's our target." As they neared the surface, enemy turrets activated. Kareth's ship took a direct hit, spinning out of control. "Kareth," Ryan shouted. Smoke filled her cockpit. Her armor system screamed alarms, but she clenched her jaw, fighting to stabilize. "I'm not done yet!" she roared, pulling her craft upward just in time to avoid crashing. Ryan felt relief wash over him, but there was no time to rest. He guided his fighter lower, toward a glowing rift at the fortress's center. "That's it." The control core. Kareth followed, battered but determined. Together, they entered the breach. Inside, the fortress was hollow and alive. Metallic structures moved slowly like veins pumping energy. Blue light pulsed rhythmically through every corridor. Ryan landed first, stepping out in his reinforced suit. Kareth followed, spear in hand, her armor scorched but unbroken. The air felt thick, electric, almost aware of them. "Feels like walking inside a beast," Kareth muttered. Ryan scanned the area, more like inside a mind. Suddenly, a deep voice filled the chamber. It wasn't spoken. It was transmitted directly into their thoughts. "You are flesh. You are temporary. Why do you resist the cycle?" Kareth snarled. "Show yourself, coward." A figure appeared, tall, metallic, ancient. It wasn't a single robot, but a shifting mass of nanometal forming a humanoid shape. "We are the architects," it said. "We built, ruled, and were forgotten. Now the galaxy belongs to us once again." Ryan stepped forward. Not if we can help it. The being's head tilted. You are human. You were not part of our design. And yet you defy entropy. You adapt. Ryan's voice was calm. That's what makes us dangerous. Kareth raised her spear. And that's what will destroy you. The entity attacked. Energy surged through the chamber, walls shifting as the floor broke apart. Ryan and Kareth fought side by side, dodging blasts and cutting through mechanical limbs that formed out of the walls. Kareth moved like lightning, using her strength and agility to smash through waves of drones. Ryan hacked into the control panels mid-battle, trying to override the fortress's systems. "Keep them off me," he shouted. Kareth grinned. Gladly. She spun her spear, sending sparks flying as she tore through the machines. Ryan's fingers flew over the console. "Almost there. Come on." The fortress trembled. The architect's voice grew louder. "You cannot destroy us. We are beyond death," Ryan smirked. "Then let's see if you can handle a little human creativity." He pressed the final command. A chain reaction started deep inside the structure. The energy veins pulsed red. Kareth looked around. "What did you do?" "Reverse their energy flow," Ryan said. They were draining power, now they're overloading. The fortress began collapsing, explosions spreading through its core. The architect screamed in digital fury. Ryan grabbed Kareth's arm. "We need to go!" They sprinted toward their ships, the ground shaking beneath them. Fire and debris filled the air. As they reached the exit, Kareth stumbled, her leg caught by falling metal. Ryan turned back instantly, lifting the beam off her with all his strength. "Come on." Kareth looked at him in shock. "Why save me? You could have escaped." Ryan's eyes burned with determination. "Because that's what humans do. We don't leave anyone behind." Together, they leapt into their fighters and blasted away just as the fortress exploded behind them, lighting up the void like a newborn sun. The surviving fleets watched the explosion from afar. Cheers erupted across every ship. Humanity and the Varkesh had done the impossible. They had destroyed the architects, the ancient machines of death. Back aboard the Vanguard, Kareth stood beside Ryan, watching the debris scatter across the stars. "You humans," she said softly. "You're smaller, weaker, slower, yet you never stop fighting. Even when it's hopeless," Ryan smiled faintly. "That's what makes us human." Kareth nodded. "Then I understand now. It wasn't strength that impressed me that day in the arena. It was your will." Ryan chuckled. "And now it's yours too." She looked at him, pride in her golden eyes. "Then maybe, together we can make the galaxy stronger than it ever was." Ryan extended his hand. Together. The galaxy had been shaken to its core. The destruction of the architect's fortress had bought time, but the ancient AI presence had not been completely eradicated. Fragments of its power still lingered in deep space, assembling into deadly weapons and new fleets of mechanical warriors. Kareth and Ryan stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, observing the movement of these remnants. The Varkeshi cruisers formed a protective ring around the human fleet. Even the most veteran Varkeshi commanders whispered among themselves. "Never have we faced a threat like this." Ryan tapped the holoscreen. "They're rebuilding. Faster than expected. But this time we won't fight alone. Every ally we've gained from the last battle is ready to support us." Kareth's golden eyes glowed. "Then we end this now. Once and for all." The Allied fleet advanced into uncharted space where the architect's remnants were amassing. Entire star systems were being consumed, mechanical fleets moving with terrifying precision. The closer they approached, the heavier the silence of space became. "This feels alive," Kareth said quietly. Ryan nodded. "It's more than alive. It thinks, adapts, learns. But we've learned too, from each other, from our enemies, and from ourselves." Kareth clenched her fists. "Then we fight, human. Not just to survive, but to prove that life, all life, can resist even the oldest machines." The first wave hit without warning. Thousands of mechanical ships emerged from the dark void, firing beams of energy that could pierce shields with ease. Kareth's ship soared into the fray, spear in hand. She cut through the enemy, each strike calculated and precise. Ryan followed in his fighter, weaving through blasts, targeting the key points in the mechanical fleet. "This isn't just combat," Ryan said through the comms. "It's a chess game. Every ship, every strike, every move, and though it's a part of their strategy. We have to be smarter." Kareth laughed, the sound fierce and alive. "Good thing we're humans and Varkeshi. Clever and strong. Together, They became a force the enemy could not anticipate. Kareth's raw power destroyed what Ryan could not disable electronically. Ryan's tactical mind predicted enemy movements, allowing Kareth to strike with deadly efficiency. The fleet watched in awe as a human and an alien princess fought as one, turning the tide of battle. Hours passed. The remnants of the architects adapted quickly, forming new patterns, targeting weaknesses, and focusing fire on the key leaders, Kareth and Ryan. "Ryan, they're focusing on us," Kareth shouted. "I know," he replied calmly, "which is why we lead them where we want." He initiated a risky maneuver, drawing a portion of the fleet into a narrow asteroid belt. The enemy followed, their numbers seeming overwhelming. "Wait," one Varkeshi commander protested. "It's a trap." Ryan smiled faintly. "Exactly." As the enemy advanced, Kareth and Ryan attacked from the flanks, the combined force striking with perfect timing. Explosions filled the belt, the enemy ships crushed by both strategy and raw power. Kareth's laughter rang across the comms. "Who knew humans could plan and fight this well?" Ryan grinned. "We don't just survive, Princess. We adapt and overcome." After the asteroid battle, the remaining architects' fragments retreated toward a distant star, their final stronghold. Sensors indicated a massive weapon being constructed there, a superweapon capable of destroying entire systems. Kareth slammed her fist on the console. "Then we don't wait. We destroy it now," Ryan nodded. "Agreed, but this won't be easy. That weapon is designed to wipe out anything in range, including us if we attack directly." Kareth's eyes gleamed. "We're not just attacking. We're winning, human." The fleet prepared for the final assault. Human bombers and Varkeshi cruisers formed coordinated waves, protecting each other while advancing on the star system. As they approached, the superweapon activated. Its energy beam lit the void, spreading across millions of kilometers. "Shields won't last long if that hits us," one human pilot shouted. Kareth's tail lashed. "Then we don't get hit. Follow my lead." With Ryan at her side, they led a strike team into the heart of the superweapon. Kareth used her spear to smash through the outer defenses, while Ryan infiltrated the systems, using both hacking skills and intuition to disable the weapon from within. The superweapon's defenses fought back, energy barriers forming, drones attacking, automated weapons firing, but Kareth moved with unmatched speed, clearing paths with brutal efficiency. Ryan navigated the internal systems, overriding barriers, dismantling energy conduits, and shutting down the weapon's main core. Suddenly, the architect's consciousness manifested in the weapon itself, a massive holographic figure towering over them. "You cannot win. Life is temporary. Machines endure," Kareth roared. "Machines cannot think like humans. We fight because we choose to live. We endure because we refuse to fall." Ryan added calmly, "And we adapt faster than you ever imagined." Together, Kareth and Ryan struck, one with strength, one with intelligence. Kareth's spear slammed into the main core, creating a massive feedback. Ryan's systems hack redirected the weapon's energy back into its containment matrix. The fortress shuddered, sparks flying, alarms screaming. Then, with a blinding flash, the superweapon imploded, collapsing into itself in a massive chain reaction. The remaining enemy fleet, deprived of its command structure, fell apart. Ships collided, exploded, and drifted lifelessly across space. When the light faded, the Allied fleet hovered in silence. No one had spoken for a moment, the enormity of what had happened sinking in. Kareth lowered her spear, breathing heavily. "We did it." Ryan nodded, leaning against the control panel. "We survived. And more than that. We proved something." Kareth's golden eyes met his gray ones. "What's that?" "That humans can stand among the greatest warriors in the galaxy," Ryan said quietly. "Not because we're stronger, but because we don't give up, we adapt, and we fight for each other." Kareth smiled faintly. "Then the galaxy will remember this day, not for the machines destroyed, but for what we did together." The Varkeshi Emperor addressed the fleet later via holocom. "Today, humanity has proven itself. The warrior princess has learned not just to fight, but to understand. Together, we have defeated an ancient threat that no single empire could have survived alone." Kareth stood proudly beside Ryan. "We fought together. Humans are more than survivors. They are a force that even the oldest powers must respect." Ryan bowed slightly. And Varkeshi warriors are more than legends. Together we are unstoppable. Across the galaxy, news of the victory spread. Worlds once skeptical of humans now looked at Earth with respect. Races that had underestimated the blue planet began sending envoys eager to learn, to trade, and to ally. Humanity's place in the stars had changed forever. Months later, Kareth and Ryan stood on the same arena sands where their first duel had begun. This time, the arena was no longer about combat for glory. It was a celebration of life, courage, and unity across species. Kareth looked at Ryan. "You changed me, not just as a warrior, but as a princess, as a leader." Ryan smiled. "And you changed the galaxy, Kareth. One duel at a time." She laughed softly, her tail flicking in amusement. "I suppose humans are harder to predict than anyone I've met." "And that's exactly why we last," Ryan said, looking at the horizon where the twin suns set. Kareth raised her spear in salute. "Then let the galaxy watch. Humans and Varkeshi together will rise against any threat. We endure, we adapt, we fight." Ryan joined her, fist meeting spear, a symbol of unity. And for the first time in history, the galaxy didn't just fear the humans. It respected them, for they had survived, taught, and conquered, not with arrogance or strength alone, but with will, intelligence, and heart. In the end, Kareth had learned the truth. Strength is not just in claws or armor, but in courage, endurance, and the refusal to give up, the essence of humanity itself.